Hello, it's Helen from Journal with Purpose and welcome to my latest video. You might remember a few months ago that I made this journal out of some Amazon packaging. So I used both the box to make the cover and then the paper inside for the pages. I've added lots of collage on the front to decorate it, and I decided to use it for a botanical challenge in February. So each month on Patreon I release a new creative challenge for us to all focus on. And as I said, in February that was botanicals, so that can be created in any kind of way you like. And I thought it would be really fun to try it on this packaging paper, which I knew was really thin, because it would kind of encourage me to create in a different way. So today I'm going to share a flip through of those pages with you. So I started off by doing some kind of line drawing of different flowers and leaves and added a little bit of journaling right back at the beginning of February. For day 2, I did one of my favourite things, which is adding a coat of gesso to the background, then used some watercolour, and I used a dip pen to add these flowers on top in a really loose style. And this paper is really thin, things definitely soak through it. You can see some of the stamping from that first page coming through. So using a coat of gesso was a really good way of me being able to still strengthen up those pages and be able to use them. I also like the fact they're all different sizes because you get different bits kind of peeping through behind. On the 3rd I just did a simple white gel pen sketch. On the 4th I used some gouache. I wasn't happy with how the stems came out, but gouache is something that I try and encourage myself to use every month because it's not my strongest point at all. For this I used the Archer & Olive acrylograph paint pens, and they gave a really lovely coverage on this craft paper, and I've got the tropical set. These ones, I've got a book by Lisa Congdon, and I really like her kind of bold doodling style, so I recreated some of those in here. So I'm just using black pigment liners and a white gel pen. Here again, my gesso watercolour, and then adding some botanical designs on top. For this day I was really short of time, but I had this lovely tissue paper, so I decided to just glue it in and just add some colour using pencil. And that's one of the things I try to do during my challenge, is adapt what I'm doing to how much time I have. So if I only have something like 5 minutes available, I still want to do something creative, so just gluing in some really pretty paper and adding something extra is absolutely fine. On the next day, again shorter time, so I fussy cut out a floral image, drew some lines on the background and added a little quote. Here back on the gesso watercolour and then sketching. I just love this way of creating so much, and it just means that you can create on any type of paper. Here I did a collage and I put on some pressed leaf stickers. And on here, I don't know how well this will pick up on camera, but I actually used a floral stencil and put some modelling paste through it and then rubbed some brown gelatos on top. For the background of this one, I used my jelly plate with acrylic paint, and the paper handled that really well, and then used some Tim Holtz floral stamps on top. For here I did some really simple little herb doodles on some scrap paper and then glued that in. And this actually goes way back. I created this as part of a collaboration on YouTube when we were doing free flow stitching on our sewing machines and incorporating that into our junk journals. And I'd done a few practice attempts before that video, so this was just sat in my sewing box, and I then used watercolour on top of the fabric. And I really like those, so I thought it was perfect to be able to put those in my journal. Really simple doodles on these with some quotes. So again, perhaps if I had 5-10 minutes spare in the evenings, I'd just get this out and sit and do some really simple pieces. This one was gesso, and then rather than a whole watercolour background like I've done on here, I just did some watercolour roses on top. I've really enjoyed playing with different colours and different mediums in here. For these 2 days, I decided to print off some floral images that I've created on Procreate on my iPad, and I think all of these, possibly apart from that one, were from some classes I took on Skillshare. I think that's Liz Kohler Brown, and I think that's Kat Coquillette. I haven't pronounced that right, I know that. There's some brilliant Procreate classes on Skillshare, so I decided to just print out my artwork and put it in here. Here again, gesso as the background, then lots of stamping and stenciling with acrylic paint. For these I created as part of, if you've taken part in the creative retreat this month, it's just been fantastic. It ran through the end of February into March, and I was lucky enough to be on one of the teachers on there. But one of the classes I joined in with was these beautiful floral sketches, and rather than do them in my sketchbook, I decided to add down some layers of collage papers first and then add those on top. This was using gouache, I think this time, and paint pens on top. And for this I'd done some jelly plate printing on tracing paper. I've talked a lot about this over on Patreon, but I've then actually cut those out to make the petals for my flower. For this one I used coloured pencil, and I was really happy with how well that came out on the craft paper, and then back to using a white gel pen, and again that showed up really well. So I've got lots of pages left in here. I will definitely be using it. It's really encouraged me to not be too precious about what I'm doing, but also to perhaps create in a slightly different way, because I'm always aware of how things are going to react with this paper. But I really hope you've enjoyed seeing the creative challenge I've been working on in February, and quite a lot of you had asked me to share an update with how I got on using this journal. As always, I want to say a massive thank you to everybody who's joined me over on Patreon. I hope you're doing really well. I look forward to speaking with you really soon in my next video.